Late night bites with friends? Already hard to beat. That first too hot bite of fries you couldn't wait for, followed by ice cold Pepsi. Now that hits different. Suddenly, the energy kicks back in, the night goes longer, and the laughs don't stop. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Your new hair era is here. At Sephora, you'll find carefully selected hair care products that work for your hair and take it to the next level. Your search for dream hair is over. Sephora is the place for hair care. Discover the best products that give your hair the treatment it needs from brands like Kerastase, K18, and Gisou. Plus, with free shipping and same-day delivery, there's never been a better time to trade up to healthier-looking hair. Shop hair at Sephora.
Sometimes we just say the same thing over and over again. Sometimes we just go. Sometimes we know what we're talking about because sometimes it's the perfect 10. And I love this. I'll probably say this every time we do a perfect 10 because at this point I think only 2 have actually been released, but I think this is like the 5th or 6th one we've recorded. I love these because it's been suggested we do interviews with the panelists, and I feel like this is like kind of like a better way to do the interviews. Like it's a great way to get to know the panelists, what bands they're into, and a little bit of a peek behind how and why they come to the bands that they come to, and how and why they play the game the way they do. I've found that this has been like a great peek behind the scenes behind these panelists. And today is no different. So it's fun to find what everybody uses to define a perfect 10 record, because it seems like everybody, they're all kind of around the same, unskippable. They're, you're listening to the whole record every time you listen to it, whatever that case may be. But there's different criteria for everyone past that. So, Gavin, go ahead and tell me, what is your criteria for what a perfect 10 album is?
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Your new hair era is here. At Sephora, you'll find carefully selected hair care products that work for your hair and take it to the next level. Your search for dream hair is over. Sephora is the place for hair care. Discover the best products that give your hair the treatment it needs from brands like Kerastase, K18, and Gisou. Plus, with free shipping and same-day delivery, there's never been a better time to trade up to healthier-looking hair. Shop hair at Sephora.
Oh my God. I have no idea. I think it's spiritual,
Okay.
Like I've loved listening to all the ones that have, that you've put out so far. And thank you for asking me. This was the hardest thing I've ever done for Deprogrammed. And I'm sure the other panelists felt the same. It's so fucking wild. It's like, there's so many records that are like, I don't think it's like quantifiable so much, like where it's like, well, it's a record where there's no skips,
Mm-hmm.
like that's one thing that I hear. I don't know that I've heard it on Deprogrammed, but I've heard that as like every song is great and there's no skips. It's like, I think you can have a skip on a perfect record, but you don't skip it, you play it, I mean, these are records that like, I went through so many different strategies on this, Justin, like looking at records, and I just had to like look at my record collection and go, what just jumped out at me? And the ones that jumped out at me were records that have an eternal charge to them. Like I go, it just jumped into my hands, these records. Like I've known them my whole life. they continue to reward the older that you get, kind of like a good book or something where you read it, I knew I loved this record when I was 17 or 15 years old, and I love it now. I'm 56 years old, and I love it in a different way. And they tend to be records that you kind of keep discovering new favorite songs on
Mm.
over the years. You're like, oh my God, I never really like that was never the song that like stood out to me. And this is like my absolute favorite song. There's a bunch of albums that do that for me. I think it's kind of like what John talked about too, just where kind of like I think that the records were I picked records that I thought were like important, where kind of all the stars collided. Records that were really of their time, like they defined their time. They came out in a moment and everything was perfect. The art was perfect, the band was perfect. They either created a scene or have lasting impact, but that wasn't really what I was looking for. I just looked for the records that jumped into my hands, and then that was kind of a side thing that I was like, oh yeah, and this is like an important record, or like, I mean, a lot of these records I found when I was a kid before I knew what an important record was.
Mm.
There wasn't any way like one of my friends would have had a record because he liked the cover of it or something, and like then later I figured out like, oh, this is an important record, but I already loved it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I hope that's helpful.
For sure. So, everybody else seems to have like honorable mentions. So if you have honorable mentions, because you've already mentioned that this was hard, have at it. And
Okay.
then however you want to attack the list, the floor is yours, friend.
Cool. I think I picked all these for different reasons, and I'll kind of just talk about that. And you guys know I can talk, so I'm gonna try to jam through this a little bit. So these are in chronological order. So the Velvet Underground was a super important band for me. I think I found them because in '85 they did a reissue campaign. I was in ninth grade, and those records were kind of unavailable. Um, but Verve, I think, like put them out again, and Honda had just put out a scooter, and there were commercials on TV, and like Devo did one of the commercials, and Lou Reed did one of the commercials, and they were playing Walk on the Wild Side. Um, and I was really kind of intrigued by it. I was like, who is this guy and what is this? And then this kid I went to high school with was like, you don't know who the Velvet Underground is? And he like loaned me this record. So in '85, they put out a lost Velvet Underground album called VU, like a VU meter, when you're recording or playing music.
Huh.
And it was supposed to be their fourth album in between self-titled and Loaded, which came out in '70. So this was all stuff from 1969. And they had record company disputes. They couldn't get it out. But this is when Lou Reed, they're all at such the height of their powers that they can just trash, a record, a full album of like classics, and then just record a whole new album, because they just think that those songs are just going to keep coming. But so this lost record has come out with different titles, different formats, different record companies, but the original time it came out was in 1985. It's called VU. Every song on it, it's all killer, no filler. I think the Velvet Underground had 3 perfect albums out of their 5,
Wow.
in my opinion. But this is just sort of one that gets overlooked because it's kind of non-canonical. It's not in the canon of the 4 records they released. And so people kind of sleep on it or forget to mention it. But I consider it like the 4th Velvet Underground record, and it is a fucking banger. Every song. The last song is sung by Maureen Tucker, the drummer. It's called "I'm Sticking with You." It's so beautiful. A lot of these songs would be recycled and put on, like recorded for Lou Reed solo albums. Always inferior versions, in my opinion. Like this was like the shit. This record. So that's a really fun record to listen to. Then this won't be a hot take or anything. This record has a lot of love, but I want to talk about Bowie really quick. When he was really using too much cocaine in like 75 and really sort of obsessed with the occult and not really in a great place. He goes to Berlin to work with Brian Eno and to dry out and like kick drugs in Berlin. And he rescues and brings Iggy Pop with him, who was in his kind of lost years after the Stooges. Like Raw Power was recorded in 72, and Iggy had been in a mental hospital, and he was a total mess. He was like, people were just like stepping over him in the gutters of Los Angeles, just kind of like, there's, Iggy Pop, and kind of laughing at him. He's kind of a joke.
Wow.
And Bowie did that for Lou Reed too in 72 with Transformer, kind of revitalizing his career, which is another perfect record. But so Iggy Pop and David Bowie meet Brian Eno in Berlin. And in 2 years, from the summer of 76 to the fall of 78, they make 5 albums. And they're all like amazing. They do Low, which is the album I'm talking about right now. Low is a perfect album. They do Heroes, they do Lodger. Those are the Bowie albums. And in their spare time, they do The Idiot, the Iggy Pop album, the first Iggy Pop solo album called The Idiot, and Lust for Life. During the recording of all of those, they were using this like crazy deck of cards that Eno had created called Oblique Strategies. And they're like, it's like a divination deck, like a tarot deck kind of. And you pull a card and it gives you this really weird piece of advice. And it's meant to like unblock you creatively, like for when you're having like problems in the studio, like recording problems, you pull a card. And so it's that's just kind of a side story. That's such a cool tool that they used. And if you're lucky, you can get a deck of those cards, and they're good for all life problems. But Low has Sound and Vision on it, which is the big single, but the A side of Low is all like songs, and the B side of Low is all instrumental and ambient tracks. And because it came out in January 77, all of the original punk rockers in England and in New York and LA would have bought that record for sure. They all bought Low in 77 as punk was sort of exploding. And Low really is like, along with the Velvet Underground, the roadmap to post-punk alternative music that goes into the 90s. You can hear so much of Low in a lot of the music that we cover on Deprogrammed. And then I'll go to the third perfect record, which is Iggy Pop's The Idiot. So
nice.
That was March 77. Again, all of the punks in the world would have bought The Idiot. It is such a crazy, strange record. It has China Girl on it, which Bowie would famously later do on like Let's Dance. There's a lot of cross-pollination. Like Bowie's playing on those records. They're sharing songs. Some of the songs wind up on Bowie records later, so, like vice versa. But a lot of people focus on the next album, which is also a perfect album, Lust for Life, because it has Lust for Life on it, which was in Trainspotting. It has The Passenger on it, which is a really famous Iggy Pop song. But The Idiot is like, it only has 7 songs. It's a short record. It's a complete vibe. It's totally bizarre, super dark, funny, druggy, strange, like you're in a dark Berlin nightclub. And it's just every note is perfect all the way through that record. It's a new wave like punk masterpiece. Okay. Stayed in 1977. Wow. Another record that I think doesn't get like the love that it deserves. We go to New York, and This is a record by the Heartbreakers called LAMF, which means like a motherfucker. And this is Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, not Tom Petty. They're a year before that Heartbreakers. The Heartbreakers is Johnny Thunders and Jerry Nolan. After the New York Dolls break up, they start a new band called the Heartbreakers in 1975 with Richard Hell, who has just left television. And those are three of the most infamous junkies in the world. All three of those guys are heroin addicts. The first ad for their first show at CBGB said, "Catch them while they're still alive." Everyone in that band sang. Everyone brought songs. That's where you first heard Blank Generation, the really famous Richard Hell song that he'd do in the Voidoids later. That's where you first hear Chinese Rocks, the Ramones song, because they wrote that with Dee Dee Ramone, Richard Hell, and Johnny Thunders. They all fight about who wrote it. They could not get a recording contract because of everyone knew that they were like horrible junkies. The Sex Pistols brought them from New York over to London to do the Anarchy tour with the Clash and the Damned. And that's a really famous tour where over half the shows got canceled as the Sex Pistols started to make the newspapers for swearing on television. All the venues started pulling the plug and not letting them play. But what a bill that is. The fucking Heartbreakers, the Sex Pistols, the Clash, and the Damned touring around England. And unfortunately, Johnny Thunder, they all looked up to Johnny Thunders. He was legendary, and he sort of brought heroin with him to London and into the punk scene at least, right? And so that's kind of an unfortunate part of that story. But fucking LAMF is like one of the greatest punk records ever made. Every song on it. That is a shit hot band. They're an unbelievable rhythm section. They're on fire. You just sing immediately. You're like, all the songs are stuck in your head. You're just singing them going down the street. They all have killer choruses. It's just like a box of candy, They're just banging out like sweet tart after sweet tart. It's like so great. Of course, Thunders and Nolan both died of heroin. Thunders in 91, Nolan in 92. But Jerry Nolan was like an insane drummer. He was raised on jazz. He was just like such a killer drummer. But that record doesn't always, make it into like the pantheon when people are talking about that first punk explosion of 77. And so I wanted to highlight that record. Then we go to 1979 and talk about the first album by the Specials, ska band. So there's a guy in the Specials. The Specials had 8 people in it. Mixed race band, black and white people. Jerry Dammers was sort of like the central force of the Specials. He started a record label called Two Tone Records, and started putting out this second wave of ska bands. So ska was late 50s and all through the 60s in Jamaica, and it migrated into the UK, into England.
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Your new hair era is here. At Sephora, you'll find carefully selected hair care products that work for your hair and take it to the next level. Your search for dream hair is over. Sephora is the place for hair care. Discover the best products that give your hair the treatment it needs from brands like Kerastase, K18, and Gisou. Plus, with free shipping and same-day delivery, there's never been a better time to trade up to healthier-looking hair. Shop hair at Sephora.
But this group of kids, white kids and black kids, were punks, right? So it's after punk. This is 79. So it's ska that's kicked up a notch and just kind of rocket fueled because they're all fans of the Pistols and stuff. And so that little fucking record label is so insane. So it's really Two Tone Records was really 2 years. In 2 years, it's one of those things where, like Justin, where like none of these people know each other, but they all have the same idea at the same time. It's like overnight, Two Tone Records is putting out the Selector, the English Beat, Madness, the Specials, Bad Manners, the Body Snatchers. It's like, where do these kids come from? They were all punks that like loved ska music and just like started these like mixed race bands. And in like 1 month, they took over the world.
Wow.
They absolutely took over England. There was like a Top of the Pops, which like it was a show that had like bands that were charting in the high chart perform on it. And in one episode, it was like the Specials, the English Beat, and Madness all on Top of the Pops because they were just like storming. The charts were like Two Tone Records, Two Tone Records, Two Tone Records. It was like a wave that just ripped across England and then over to the United States. Like, my yearbook, my high school yearbook from '85 is like all quotes off this record that people were like writing in my yearbook. Like my friend group just like immediately were like obsessed with like Two Tone music. Britain was really racist at that point. In '79, the National Front was like a serious political force. That's like a white power political organization. They had like the coolest style. They wore suits. They were mods, they looked so cool. Terry Hall, the singer, wore like a suit with like black eyeliner. He just looked so sick, like so fucking cool. A third of the songs on that record are covers, but they chose like the perfect ska songs to cover and they ramped them up. So it doesn't even matter that they're covers, they're like they kind of belong to the Specials. But that record is just like front to back, like insanity. It's just like you cannot help but like jump up and start like moving around. It'll just take you with it. Like it has a spirit to it that's like so forceful and so joyful. And what they're singing about is super cynical, super like depressing. Like all of the social commentary is like punk, but the music is like super upbeat and like real crazy and like really fun. And we're going to jump across the pond, Los Angeles, 1981, the first record by the Gun Club called Fire of Love. And Fire of Love was, the Gun Club was done by what the main guy in the Gun Club was Jeffrey Lee Pierce, who was a really weird kid in LA. He wrote for Slash magazine. He reviewed all the reggae singles and he called himself Ranking Jeffrey Lee. He was obsessed with reggae. He was the president of the Blondie fan club. Oh. He was like obsessed with Blondie. He wore like super weird clothes and was kind of like a misfit, pretty awkward socially. He kind of like legendarily like never really had a girlfriend or a boyfriend. But he started this crazy band called the Gun Club. And they were like punk Delta swamp blues.
Whoa.
He mixed like voodoo New Orleans blues with punk rock. And The Fire of Love is a perfect record. Every song on that record is so there's nothing that has ever sounded like it before or ever sounded like it after, including the many Gun Club albums that came after that. That was the band. Like he changed the band for every record, but that first record, there was something like happening in that cooker that was like really special. He was like a poet, super bad alcoholic, super troubled, and wound up, dying of like alcoholism, like pretty young. Then, I wanted to like include a few like new wave, like perfect records. Cause that's kind of like my love, and I thought there was a lot I could have done, but I tried to pick records that I think that kind of like the crew from Deprogrammed may actually but I don't know. Um, so in 1982, uh, there was a guy named Vince Clarke who started a band that some people may have heard of called Depeche Mode. He was the primary songwriter and kind of like the engine behind Depeche Mode. And he wrote all the songs on the first Depeche Mode album. And then he's a really weird dude, like kind of antisocial. He was kind of like, yeah, we're getting too popular and like I don't really want to deal with this and I'm just gonna quit. So he just quits Depeche Mode as they're like this super ascendant popular band on the zeitgeist of like these kids in England that are using synthesizers in the post-punk era, right? So he he puts out an ad. He's just a total synth guy, all electronics. That's all he does. And he puts out an ad for like a blues gospel singer anonymously in the music papers. He's like, band looking for a blues gospel singer. Female. He may have said female. So this woman named Alison Moyer shows up for this what she thinks is like an R&B like type of band, and it's just this nerdy dude with like all these synthesizers. And those two create this band called Yaz. In England, they were called Yazoo. And they did two perfect records, but we're talking about the first one called Upstairs at Eric's. And it is just this perfect mix of like warmth and like coldness. Like you have all of this really cool, cold, like electronic pop music that he was doing with Depeche Mode. And then you have this amazing, like blues, like singer, this woman with like this totally like warm, rich voice. And that combination was just like wild. It still doesn't sound like anything else. Totally great. Every song on that record, it's experimental, it's pop, it's got some dance floor bangers. It's kind of got everything you want. You listen to that record front to back whenever you play it, and it never gets old. It never ceases to amaze you. Then after Ian Curtis died, hung himself from in Joy Division in 1980, the rest of the band carried on as New Order and did an album called Movement in 1981, which is it's a tough listen. That album is really, really bleak. And then they did a bunch of cool stuff in 1982, like singles and stuff, and really started bringing in electronic music. But in 1983, New Order put out their second album called Power, Corruption, and Lies. And that is an all-time perfect new wave record. Also, not a news flash. Like it makes all the lists, of everything always. It's not like a secret, but they had been to New York. They were kids from outside of Manchester, this little town that I've been to, and like but now they had like gone to like Danceteria. They had seen like the big clubs in New York where hip hop's starting, electro is starting. They're seeing people doing break dancing, and like they get really into electronics and dance music, but they can't escape like that soulfulness of like that Manchester gloom, post-punk, like Joy Division spirit that they have. So you have Power, Corruption, and Lies trying to be kind of like this new dance electronic record, but it is like still like has the soul of Joy Division in it. I would say that's a record that is really, riding the zeitgeist. Like it is forward thinking in its time. It's experimental. It's using all of the cutting edge, like recording equipment, all the stuff that they have in the studio. They're just trying new equipment every day, trying different things, really pushing the envelope of music. And it still holds up today and sounds totally innovative and unique. Then I want to talk about this record because I think that people don't know it. So I'm not like a huge fan of the band Tears for Fears, but when I was a kid, their first album came out in 1983. It's called The Hurting, and it was
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Your new hair era is here. At Sephora, you'll find carefully selected hair care products that work for your hair and take it to the next level. Your search for dream hair is over. Sephora is the place for hair care. Discover the best products that give your hair the treatment it needs from brands like Kerastase, K18, and Gisou. Plus, with free shipping and same-day delivery, there's never been a better time to trade up to healthier-looking hair. Shop hair at Sephora.
and has remained one of my all-time favorite albums. Back in the day, every weird kid had that record. It was considered like a goth masterpiece. Everyone wore Tears for Fears buttons and like wrote them on their peachy and their t-shirt, and like they were like a true underground legend. And then when they kind of like went pop for their next album, that's all kind of forgotten about. But these were two kids that grew up together in high school in a place called Bath in England, which anybody going to England, I would encourage you to go to Bath. It's a Roman city, totally amazing. Like, more people should check that place out. What a wild place to grow up. They both came from super kind of abusive homes, and they had read about this guy that was doing this new type of therapy in New York called primal scream therapy, where you're like just entering these fugue states, like screaming and like getting out all of your like trauma. There's a lot more to it than that, but the primal scream is a part of that therapy. And they, as kids, they wanted to go to New York to take his like therapy classes and lectures to try to like heal their trauma.
Wow.
So they started bands. They were in a band before that, which was kind of like nothing, but they started Tears for Fears to try to, all they wanted to do is make enough money to get to New York. So they get these synthesizers and they make this like new wave synthesizer record, the two of them, and half the songs go to like number one in England. Like 5 of the songs became like, I don't know, top 5 singles and kind of like took over the world. And so I don't think they ever went to New York for the therapy. They were kind of like now on the pop train, you know. But The Hurting is an amazing, it's a therapy record. So every song on the record is about therapy, about trauma, and it's just like a new wave masterpiece. My last record, Tom Waits is from LA, but we're going to go to 1985 when he's in New York. Tom Waits was like, I'm sure people know about him. He's kind of a troubadour, like loungy kind of singer in LA, kind of a drinking gin, like kind of a dandy dude. I don't know how to describe. He had a ton of records. Laurel Canyon. He knew everybody in LA. But in 84, he did this totally bizarre record called Swordfish Trombones, like this experimental wild ass record. But the record I'm talking about is the next year. It's part of a trilogy. He did an album called Rain Dogs in New York, and it's all like New York stories about like the down and out in New York. Keith Richards is on the album. It's a totally bohemian album. It's like New Orleans funeral brass songs and like voodoo blues and like weird Bukowski poem songs about being seasick, and like it's just like this wild party record where you're like, where it feels like the floor is like moving under your feet. It's like it is super drunk and super strange and really fun and really smart. And he's singing in all these different voices. There's all these different characters, but Rain Dogs is a perfect album front to back. All these like all the instruments are weird. There's tin cans and pots and like washboards, but it also just has so many banger like songs. It's not just like an experimental record. It's like it has beautiful songs. Downtown Train, like there's so many songs that are like classics. Um and and yeah, that's my 10 perfect albums.
You know, I mean this in the most loving way possible. This was both exactly what I would have expected and completely unexpected from a Gavin list. Like, it's a lot of stuff that I've never heard of or, knew the name of, and I'm finally getting the story of. And, you expect new wave. So, like, I'm happy to see new wave here. I expected some punk. So it's like,
Yeah.
it is a nice condensation of almost exactly what I'd expect. I wouldn't have been able to pick those 10 if you gave me all year, but like it is interestingly both exactly what I would have expected and not what I would have expected at all. So
Right on.
So,
Perfect.
exactly. And, that's the name of the game, a perfect 10 record. And everybody has their own definition of what that is. So if you'd like to play, just hit me up. We will figure out a time where we can, as you can see, the floor will mostly be yours. I will interject only as necessary. So if you feel like I talk too much, then this is the place for you to come and do more talking. So there we have it. Gavin, thanks again for sharing. I appreciate it. And we will talk to you all later.
Thanks.
Bye.